Okay, and since it's time and we have some participants who've already joined, I think we'll start, and I would welcome everyone to this webinar. Good evening to one and all. I am Ruchira Banka. I'm the Principal Educational Consultant at Shimindli. From Shimindli, we also have Deepti Vaswani, who is the Student Success Manager. Hi, Deepti. I think she's been in touch with multiple people out here and, letting you know about the webinar and all. So I myself have been an educator for over 18 years now, and I strongly believe that the core of planning is collaboration. So we've come together on this platform to collaborate, and this platform provided to us by Shimindli. I would like to thank our speaker, Ms. Chinky, and to each one of you for taking this time out to join this webinar that brings together like-minded educators who would have taken this one step towards a better education system and all. So before we begin, I would first like to introduce Shimindli to you. Shimin is a Japanese word that means citizen. Shimindli is an edtech platform that aims to create global citizens. It provides skill-based programs to school students with the belief that students need holistic education to shape up as resilient, confident individuals who are ready to prosper in the real world. With the vision to create these future-ready citizens, Shimindli provides lessons that focus on development of life skills and academic skills with professionally trained teachers from across the globe. To spread these ideas, we plan to host this and many more such webinars. In today's webinar, we talk about the two crucial R's in a classroom: research and reflection. I'm sure as educators, there have been multiple instances where we need to create the importance of these R's in the classroom before we actually talk of the implementation. And we have our expert, Ms. Chinky, who will share her experience and expertise on the same. To begin the learning that we look forward to today, I would like to introduce Ms. Chinky to you. She is the MYP coordinator at Pathway School, Noida. She is an MYP IDU examiner since 2020. She has more than 12 years of experience of working in the varied profiles with the PYP, MYP, and the diploma program. She currently teaches biology as well as digital design in the MYP. She has a bachelor's in education after completing a master's in science with bioinformatics as her specialization. She's a passionate educational technology enthusiast and likes to bring in innovation to the classroom. There's a lot of learning that I personally look forward from this session. And before we begin, I would request the participants to type in their full names in the chat box for us to ensure that we are able to send in certificates post the session to you. The stage is all yours, Ms. Chinky.
Yeah. Hello. Hello, everyone, and thank you all for joining in for the session. I'm looking forward to a lot of interaction during the session, and of course, I hope that I'll be able to give you some insights that you can take away and implement in your classrooms. Thank you, Shimindli, for giving this opportunity, and thank you, Ruchira. Now, when we are talking about research and reflection in the classroom, so the objectives of the webinar, the main aspect that I'm going to try to cover during this session is going to be about research. How can research happen across disciplines? It is not specific that research can happen only in a certain subject, but it can be taught through every discipline. Documenting and presenting the research-based work by students, how can we train them to do that? And after that, we'll be talking about reflection strategies, about how can we take authentic reflection, how can that be a continuous process, how can that inform the teaching and learning, but in addition to that, how can that aid as a learning tool for students. I just want you all to quickly open your browsers, even on your phone, that will do. If you can just open this link and pin with this number so that it can be an interactive session. There will be some questions, some interactions that I want to really have with the audience during the session. Yeah, I'll just move forward. Before we start thinking about research, I think research is not anything that's isolated. Often this is something new in this era that we talk about so much, but as individuals, research is something that we've been doing through and through everyday lives. So quickly, I wanted you all to reflect on one thing. What is the last thing or idea or question you had in your mind that you did a Google search for? Anything. Just type in. You can type in at this link. I'm sure we search so many things and we always have queries about many things that we want to find out about. We've got like 3 responses. Let's wait for 1, 2 more, and then we'll proceed.
Excuse me, ma'am, I'm not able to join in this slido.com.
Okay, maybe you can just
Can you please share the link?
no, it's here on the screen, slido.com, and just the number you have to type in. Maybe if that doesn't work, you can just write in the chat. That's also fine. I think we've got a few responses. We'll just move ahead. Okay, weather in Noida. Okay, how to go to a particular place. Yeah, that's very common. How to block Google Photos. Okay. So basically, Google has become a handy tool for all of us to find out any information that we want to, and that's like a one-click, easy go-to thing. Now, when we talk about research skills, it's not just about search. It's much beyond searching for factual information. It's much beyond just going to Google and finding information, but it's more about how we interpret the information, how we find information from different sources, collaborate that, and then find what is relevant for our purpose. Research skills are really important part of students' education as they provide the foundation for critical thinking and problem solving, which is a basic skill that everyone needs to navigate through life at workplace, at also in the personal scenario while making decisions. So I think research skills are something which, as educators, we need to develop in our students through any possible learning strategy that we can use in our classrooms. So these are some of the strategies which can be used. First is modeling the research process. It's often very important that we show students about how can actually research be done. Giving them tasks to research is not the way to go about it, because teaching research through a process is important. Giving them prompts using inquiry-based learning, where you are giving them some questions which will help them indulge in the topic, which will get them thinking, which will help them formulate proper questions, which can help them get proper answers. Also, research has to encourage students to collaborate. So when when students collaborate, do a research in a group task, often they come up with different perspective, because every individual gets an opportunity to think through for the information about the information from their own perspective. They have their own knowledge and their way of looking at it. So I think collaboration also helps a lot when it comes to research tasks. And encouraging self-directed learning, where some resources are already given, some skimmed, and some shortlisted resources are given for a purpose which are age appropriate for the child. And then we give them prompts and they have to find research through those resources and come up with their findings about the research or the topic that's given for them. I think that helps them to be independent as researchers. So it could be as good as a simple task where we want them to go through a certain number of websites which are really nice, and we give them just a couple of words and ask them if you have to find the meaning of these words or find the occurrence of these words in that website, for how many times does the word occur. For different age learners, we have to use different strategies. When we want them to go through a text, an article, it's very important that we ensure that they've gone through it. And it could be done through some intermediate questions, which give us an idea whether they've actually gone through the article, have they comprehended it, or some using tools like Edpuzzle, where while they're watching a video, there are some prompts and they have to answer. That ensures that the child is going through the resource and is being able to understand and comprehend the way we want them. So at different age levels, the research process has to be taught in a different way. Now, coming to different disciplines, it's often perceived that only in certain subjects research can be taught, or certain subjects there are a lot of topics, a lot of facts that they have to understand, and certain topics is just about opinions. But research is important in all the thematic subjects as well as subjects where there is a lot of critical thinking and opinion-based learning. So just showing a few examples. These are few examples of my classroom, how I've used research-based task in a science classroom. So basically, the first one, which is a big paper activity where they were given some prompts, and for every prompt, the students had to understand what does the highlighted or the bold word mean. For that, they have to either go to Google and search for it. If I'm asking for an example, then also they have to find out where is the application of that aspect happening. For that, they will again go and search and find whether that's relevant. So that is a way to get them to research through books or the web. The next one is research for 15 minutes. So it's a time assignment, which was very quick in the classroom, which I gave. So basically giving them a prompt and they have to find through the web in 15 minutes, they have to find about a particular example, how can food production, how humans have used the understanding of science to increase the human food production for the increasing human population. So when it's given in a timed manner, they know which are the sources they have to look for, whether they can justify the sources that they have looked for or not. Third is an example of a task, which is a group task, where they had to plan in groups of 3, and for each factor that affects the photosynthesis. So students then did a research quickly, and within the same class created a concise PPT with 2 slides where they presented how that factor affects photosynthesis, along with the sources that they use to refer for the process. So when a group task is given, it often becomes a lot of competitive in terms of students want to do their best, find the best way to present their work. So this is really interesting. Coming to a math classroom, there could be a variety of ways when we can ask students to research about the application of any mathematical concept being taught in the class, be it something like HCF or LCM, or something like, okay, someone would think, where would you even use HCF or LCM? So finding something which is simultaneously happening, or how fast, which are the 2 trains which will be coming at the same time, or how many stations will they be crossing at the same time. So there are many different things and applications of math, even if it comes to trigonometry, or if we talk about simultaneous equations. There are many things which students, if they understand the applicative aspect of the topic that they are studying, then definitely it will create more interest and rigor in the subject. And there's a lot of study research that they can do based on the statistics. That is a major part of mathematics. Now these are certain websites that I've put in, and maybe Ms. Ruchira, after the session, if you could share the presentation with the participants. So these are sites which actually can help students understand the authenticity of the resource. There's a lot of information available online nowadays. There are a lot of media playing a large role in how people form their opinions. But it's important that we find out whether what's coming to us or what are we coming across is authentic. For them, these are some sites which can be used by any teacher, largely by language or humanities subjects, where they actually can teach how students can understand whether the news source is authentic, whether the facts are appropriate or not. There are certain pointers which can help them identify whether this is a fake thing or this is a made up thing or this is an actual news item, or whether these facts corroborate with anything else they find on different websites. So there are these pointers which are given on these sites, and there are quizzes which can make learning about finding the source authenticity fun. Now, this is basically about like how can you do a quick research task in the class. So I just shared an article. I wanted students to tell me whether it is feasible. So when you ask them whether it can be done or not done, or can just go through this and try to understand. But when you give them a question prompt based on a research task where they have to give an opinion about it, and they have to basically conclude giving an opinion with reasons, it's imperative that the students are bound to go through it and think about it, which is the main purpose of when you are trying to help them develop research skills. So here I had asked them to tell me whether it's feasible to create this virtual tool as per their at their age level, and then that's how I've got responses from my students. The main aspects of research skills, if we go through the research process, first is asking relevant and focused questions. Being able to write proper questions, being able to formulate the query that you have in your mind is very important when it comes to research. Second, like we already saw some examples, finding and evaluating the source of information. Note taking is a very important part. When you are finding so much information, what are you going to pick up from those things? There's a lot of information. What is the relevant one? How are you going to document your research? How are you going to synthesize information? Synthesizing is all about how are you going to put the facts together and form an opinion about it, or come to a conclusion. How are you going to evaluate or justify the research that you've done? So that's about the synthesizing part. And then last but very important in these days is citing sources, because students often don't do that and then they can get into trouble. So they need to be taught that when they are taking information from anywhere, it's important that they cite and give the credits. This is just one example how you can take class time to develop note-taking skills. So when we give them some material, so this is basically a video that I wanted students to watch during the class time. I had given them 2 question prompts, and before showing the video, I asked students to make a format like this for Cornell Note in their notebooks, or even the digital online Google Docs that they are going to take notes for. They had to take notes in this format. So this was explicitly explained that this is the format in which you are going to take notes while you are watching the video, or you can also add in information afterwards. But this is the format. I need the information. Sometimes we often think that note taking is something that child can do on their own in their own way, but this is something explicit and we need to teach them how to do these things. Maybe doodling or making a sketch note or making a mind map. Any different format can work for note taking, but that has to be given explicit. So if teachers can use different formats and give a variety of exposure, I think students can find which is the best fit for their own purpose, because every student learns in a different way. Now there's a lot of news media, across social media, across news. There's a lot of information that's going on, and there's one burning topic that's going on, which is about some development which is bothering educators. So I just want you all to think and again respond on this link. If you are aware about anything which is really bothering educators, what is the latest technological developments? If you can name 1, 2, 3, any number is fine, which is actually a major point of discussion for educators about how with the advent of this, how is education going to look like? With this, I really look forward to response for this. Okay, we've got a couple of responses. 7. Yeah, okay. The most common thing is ChatGPT. Yeah, that's what I was looking forward to. Paraphrasing tools, yes. Grammarly, for language teachers, that has always been a problem. Too much of social media, online exams. Voice to text available on Word, yes. Virtual reality, okay. So yes, most of all, just summarizing them, chatbots like ChatGPT, and there are several other AI-based applications that have come in the market and which are very easy to use by students, even as by educators. But that's a major concern that's is going on, and that's something that everyone has on their mind, that how are we even going to verify whether the students submitted work is their own work, because plagiarism checkers like Turnitin or any other checker would not be able to identify a task or a text submitted or created through an AI platform, because that's not directly taking facts. It's going to be regenerative every time. It's going to be unique, and the responses it creates are quite human-like. So it's a challenge. But again, when we talk about research, and then when we talk that people could use Google, with the advent of Google, when Google came into the market, there was this problem about now students will not make the efforts to go and find information through library. The library and books will become redundant, or research papers will become redundant, but it doesn't happen. So with this too, I think we all will sail through, and there are different ways to find. But of course, research is not just about finding information. It's much more about synthesizing and concluding, giving opinion. So it's important that research-based tasks are carefully thought of now, much more than how it used to be. But now teachers will have to be more creative in the ways they create these tasks, so that the responses, and you can use ChatGPT as a source to give them feedback and ask them to get feedback on their own work, and make it as your assistant teacher, rather than using it, letting them use as a tool for their benefit. Now coming to the next part of the session, which was about reflective skills. Reflective is very important, because when we just go through an experience, it's often when it's only about going through, but unless we put in effort to think about what we've experienced or what we've gone through, information or an experience, unless we reflect and think over it, it's very difficult for people to actually retain it. So reflection is a very key part of the learning process. Now, if you see this a taxonomy of reflection that I've put in here, it's about how reflection can vary for a different age group. So when it comes to children with at a small age, it's just about remembering whether they can recall what they've done. That's more than enough. Further going, the advanced as they move ahead in life, it's important that they understand that why they went through what they had to go through, and then applying. How can they apply what they've learned? And analyzing, evaluating, and creating. Creating is the highest step when it comes to the taxonomy of reflection, also the Bloom's taxonomy. So basically about when you can acquire knowledge and then understand, evaluate, and use the knowledge acquired or understanding acquired to create something on your own, which is original. So that is where actually reflection is happening. Reflective strategies have to be used throughout the learning process. It's often comprehended to be used at the end of learning. Okay, reflection means end of the, so if we talk about inquire, action, and reflection, so we'll always think about reflection happening at the end. After everything is done, we'll ask students to reflect. But actually, reflection has to be used at each stage of learning. So it's important that at the beginning of whenever they're starting a process, students reflect on where they are, how much they know, and what they intend to know or what they're wondering about. During the learning process, it's important because they need to know what's the amount of understanding that they've acquired. It's a good step for check for understanding, which gives a clear, true picture to the teacher about where is the child going, where is my teaching going. And also it's important for a teacher to evaluate through these reflective strategies whether I need to modify my teaching strategies or my content or the way I'm taking the content. It's very important that at each stage, reflection is used for both the parties, for the students, for the learner, as well as the teacher or the facilitator. So just giving a quick example, like if I wanted to use this as a formative, I used it with my students. So I taught them about two different aspects of photosynthesis and cellular respiration, and I wanted to know whether they are getting it, because the students were really not able to reflect as much and when asked about the direct questions, because they were getting hassled with the complexity of the terms involved and the name of the formulas and the process names. So they were getting too anxious about it, and I gave them this creative task where they had to just create a drawing. They could represent any way what happens, and there were these pointers and how both these processes are interconnected. How does the energy flow happen? And I just show it was a quick formative which gave me a clear idea about where each student stands and where for the students whom I need to revisit the topic, but probably they are not clear about the concept clearly. So I got a few ideas, and this was a quick 15-minute task in the class. But I just gave them these sheets of paper, and they created, okay, what's happening in photosynthesis and what's happening in cellular respiration, where does it happen, how does the conversion of energy happen, and it really gave me a good insight about where they stood at that stage of the unit. There are different ways to take reflections. It could be a continuous process through journaling, asking students to keep a journal. Some students would like to keep it that way. It could be through regular discussions, which are offline, online in the class, that you give them opportunities to discuss within groups of students, or you have open classroom discussions. You give them opportunity to self-assess through a rubric about understanding where they stand after they've done some work. That could be a good reflection strategy. If they are given opportunity to give a feedback to others' work. So peer feedback works very well if done in a very constructive way, because that helps them reflect really well when about where they are going wrong when their friends or peers explain it to them. And metacognition is about setting your goals, about identifying your strengths and weaknesses. And according to that, you set your next goal. So, how you want to move forward in your learning. So this is again just an example where I wanted students to go through some article and wanted them to reflect on the article. So I started this as a regular practice in my classes where anything new, interesting, scientific article I come across, I would put that on the Google Classroom and students would just tell their opinion about the article or how they feel, whether that's just what's their emotional reaction to it, what do you think about the feasibility, whether what's the economic aspect that you're thinking about. So this is basically a much needed aspect in my subject. So that's how I started doing it through an asynchronous platform. And this also helps. So discussions need not be always on in classroom format, but it can also be taken to an async forum like this. Again, this was a quick where I wanted students to reflect on about brainstorm and think about possibilities of digital solution as I also teach digital design. So then I had given them a prompt and then they were expected to create a mind map and then submit it. So that gave me an idea about where to what extent can they think about when it comes to this question or this topic given to them. It could be as easy as, okay, I'm starting a topic. I'll just tell them, okay, right, what do you think about this topic? And just share it with to the next person sitting with you. So for any class, this could work for any age group. That what do you understand about this? And just tell it to the person sitting next to you. So these are very quick strategies and they don't take much of a time. It's just about making it a practice in the classroom. These are some visual thinking routines which can also be used for reflection. I'll just check the time. Okay, we have time. So these are certain visual thinking routines which I came across and I found it really interesting, where intention, action, and reflection at each stage of the learning process is taken as a reflection from the students by the teacher. Intention is basically when a teacher explains what's the purpose of the lesson or the unit that I'm going to take forward or the activity I'm going to take forward. So that's where the student and the teacher has to be on the same platform about knowing, okay, what's the purpose, how are we going to achieve it, and reflection about how well could we do or could we actually achieve the intention that we were aiming for. So I think this throughout process, if it's done with the student, it will help them understand the learning process. Again, there are these two different VTRs which are really nice about burning questions, solutions. So visually, some students really like how to, when they are asked to reflect visually when they are giving this VTR prompts. Pluses and deltas. This is something which is interesting where in terms of peer feedback, students can be asked to give peer feedback in this format where they have to tell one positive thing about their peer or their work that the peer has submitted and one thing which could be changed. So I think that is a very good way of giving specific instructions when you're taking reflection, specific instruction when you are asking them to give a peer feedback. So modeling reflection is also very important because when students see that adults are somewhere reflecting, they are vulnerable, they are open to their limitations and they are open to share that with the students, it becomes very obvious and very easy for students to also tell what they are struggling with. So when a teacher makes it a regular or an often practice about talking about how the class went and how did the teacher feel about it, even making a small statement like, okay, I had planned it this way, but probably it didn't go that well because I wasted time on this, or there was some disruption in the class, and maybe I could have prepared better, or I thought that you all didn't, you had some prior knowledge, but that was my wrong estimation, and that's why I couldn't complete it on time. So if teacher makes this as a regular practice about reflecting about her class, or okay, how did you feel? I felt really well, and I feel I've covered it really well. But then it's very important that you take children on board. You can ask them, make inquiries like, do you feel the same? Do you actually feel that I've done this well? Taking them on board, making them part of your teaching process will also encourage them to reflect, also encourage those passive learners in the class who would never come up with questions, never tell that they are not understanding, to come and tell, okay, ma'am, I didn't get it. Ma'am, please tell me, I don't understand. Or probably this is not, this is too complex for me. So I think that modeling of reflection is a very important part when we want to develop reflective skills in students. So as we talk about role modeling everything, when we want to develop that in students, this also is important. Uh, this is one thing that I do regularly with my set of students, is taking a unit and reflection after I've covered a particular topic or a set of particular topics. And I would make sure that I take a reflection. And in that reflection, I would like to ask them about the best topics, what was the challenging part, what is something that you are still struggling with. But one essential part of the questionnaire would be, okay, what could I as a teacher have done differently to help you better? Any specific ways that you want me to change in the way how I teach? Or do you think that doing something differently will help you learn better? It could be strategies, it could be sharing of resources, it could be anything. But making this is again by the aspect about being open to feedback. When you become open to feedback, then that's where students think that you are interested in helping them learn, and you are also working on it. So I think that's important. And I did get really nice feedback, and there were certain things about, okay, maybe you can give us more group activities in the class, in the next class. When it's about too much scientific terminologies, we would like to have a word wall or a list of vocabulary that we need to remember. If you can share that concise vocabulary with us at the beginning of the lesson, that would help. So I got good insights from my students, and that definitely does help. Again, a semester end reflection for students. So this we did at Pathways this semester, and I think this format was something that I came up with a few of my colleagues. So basically helping students do a reflection based on a certain limited number of prompts, which helps them understand whether they are on track, whether they are getting where they need to, or what are things that I need to change. When we talk about metacognition, or that aspect of reflection where you understand your strengths and weaknesses through the process that you've been through, so that you can set your goals and next steps. So I think that is very important that we create that as a regular practice with students, so that they know that for everything and any project they undertake, or even in real life, in their personal life, if something goes wrong or if something goes right, they should be able to reflect and understand and think about what went well, what didn't go well, and how could you do it differently. Yeah, and these are certain resources which can be used by anyone who wants to develop how to work on a research curriculum, or create some activities, or adopt some activities for your own classrooms. I just wanted to explore this tool, but I don't think we'll have enough time because it will require more time. This is a nice tool, whiteboard.fi, which can be used as a quick reflection tool. What's the plus of it is basically if you create a whiteboard and ask students to reflect on it, it can also take mathematical equations. It can allow students to doodle. It can allow students to just text type, insert images, videos, anything. Once as a teacher, I create a dashboard, I create a whiteboard, and I can create whiteboard for all my students. The best part of it is I can see the whiteboard of all the students on my screen as a teacher. So that ensures that students are not doing anything else while I've given some time for them to reflect. And of course I can go around, but that also becomes difficult when you give a laptop based task because students are too smart these days to switch in tabs. So I think this is something that can help, and you can get a visual and written reflection from them quickly. So you may want to try it. It's really nice tool. Yeah, so I just wanted to share this reflection tool on Padlet where I could get a reflection from all of you. But I think Ms. Ruchira will be sending across feedback thing, right? So yeah, it's not required. Yes. Okay, I think we can open it up for any questions if we have.
Any questions, any strategies that our peers would be using in their classrooms? We would love to
Yeah, you
hear
all can
those.
share too. Yeah.
I think Lekha and Parul say they use Peer Deck, which works
Yeah,
well
I've
for
used it
this.
too. It's really nice.
Anything else, audience? We would really want to make this some little more interactive. Our idea is to be able to, share ideas and be able to reflect on our strategies that we all have been using in the classrooms through this interaction.
Yes, I'm
So
using
you-
exit sleep after the class every day.
Okay, exit slips, right?
Yeah, exit sleep. I make the exit slip on the wall, and if they have any questions, they will drop the questions over there. Then end of the lesson, I used to collect that question, and next class we start the reflection.
Okay, okay, nice. I think, yes, I think what Lekha has mentioned is about students writing something irrelevant and not too specific as we want. So it's very important that we create the proper prompts. And also with the age group that we are dealing with. If we give them too open-ended prompts, okay, what went well? So I think that won't work. So with them, with students, when we want a specific feedback or them to reflect on a specific thing, it's important that we give those specific prompts. Unless we give that, they also take it as a task and they just want to get done with it. So often they do that, yes.
Yeah, completely agree. I think most of the students would end up saying that it went very well. I had
It went
fun. It
very
was nice. These are the kind of
yeah.
words that students generally tend to use for reflections. Reflections rather have to be quite in depth where they themselves understand that why am I reflecting on this at all? What is the use of this kind of reflection happening? So I think rightly said, Chinky, that we must give them the right prompts and in-depth prompts as well.
Yeah, so maybe writing about what like it could be. I mean, people could come up with other ideas. So basically, it could be something like, where do you think in real life you can use this what you've learned, or do you think this is something that you would like to go and share with someone? Whom will you share and why? Something
Exactly.
like that. I think that could help.
Exactly. I think when we try to relate it to real life, that really makes sense to them, giving them a context of learning, basically.
Yes, exactly.
Any other strategies, maybe any other research strategies that people would want to share? Yeah, okay. We have a message from Heta. How do we scaffold skills across grades to ensure that we focus on relevant skill strands in the relevant grade?
Yeah, so that is of course always a challenge. But I think when we look at the taxonomy bit that I had shown for the reflection thing, I'll just go back to that slide. I think this, when it comes to reflection strategies, definitely giving the question prompts according to the grade could be in this format. So basically, for someone who's like grade 6 or I mean, primary grades, remembering is more than enough. Understanding could be a higher order thing, but when it comes to middle school, of course, it has to be about applying and analyzing and evaluating. And when it comes to really create, and then the prompts have to be like layered. So for when we talk about any age group, it has to be somewhere where you have the prompts for every age group, the same prompts, but the minimum expectation from each age group is different. There could be learners who would be experts or who are very proficient with that skill, and they would attempt the last prompt too. But there would be some who would just do one prompt. So giving that voice and choice, I think, is important. And yeah, so I think, well, what is it? The other questions we can just, okay. Okay, one thing I came across, which was quite interesting and controversial also in recent times, when we talk about research, often that's how we have been ingrained, and that's how we teach our students that don't look into Wikipedia ever, because that's not an authentic source. Of course, you cannot look for information directly put on Wikipedia and just take it from there. But when you go through Wikipedia, you often find sources which they have quoted are authentic. So when you are looking for something opinion based, there's no harm in going through Wikipedia, but of course you cannot cite Wikipedia as an authentic source. So there was a lot of debate on this yeah. So look at the cited sources. So look at the cited sources and go through those links, and then you can look for it. But Wikipedia could be a good starting point when you're going through a research or finding information about anything. You cannot just take the opinion from there, but otherwise that's a good source. Okay. And on this slide, I put this one for student resources. There is this one course from Google, which is really nice, they have a layered set of courses on Google search about finding. There was a question about finding authentic sites and how can you identify whether that's an authentic site or not. So there are these different courses on Google which are free, and I think it should be encouraged to students to go through this, because finding data and finding appropriate data, which are the sources you should be looking for, is really given through a very dynamic way of learning, where they are given tasks, research tasks, and then you have to find, and then you have to find out whether those pointers are met. So it's a quite interactive course and platform where students can actually learn by doing it. Okay, I generally use 3Wise Vidya to reflect it. Matter by matter. Yeah, I think this is something like Ms. Kirti has mentioned. This is like an advanced pattern of where you are asking them to reflect by giving a why prompt. Why is definitely a higher order prompt when you are asking them to make connections, because and every question is based on something which is making a personal connect with the child. It's not about something which is going to be common for everyone. So that's where the student will actually have to think through and respond. I think that's really interesting. Yeah, See, Think, Wonder Words, KWL works. There are many, there's the CSI thing, which there are many on this Harvard site, like the Project Zero thing. It has a lot of VTRs, and every VTR, how can you actually explain that to the students, is also given very well on that site.
Are there any other
Um,
questions or ideas that anyone would want to share? Yeah, so we'll
And I
we'll
would
be
also,
sharing the slides with you post the session. So don't worry on copying the links for right now. We'll be sharing these with you.
Yeah, and I would really recommend that teachers and educators should for once explore ChatGPT themselves, so that if they come across something that the student has created through it, you will at least be well aware about it. Not that you'll definitely be able to find out, but at least you should know something that's going on.
Yes, our research task for the day.
Yeah.
Yeah, sure, sure.
Yeah. Thank you
Okay,
all.
great. Great. I do not see any other questions or suggestions coming in right now. So I think we'll move towards the end of the session where, I clearly take back a lot of learning from this session. And I really hope that all the educators around here have taken back this learning and be able to implement certain things out of this in their classes. Our idea is to now keep upgrading ourselves and, start seeking help from each other, because to reach the level and the pace that our students have already reached, I think we have to keep taking up that pace. So in case you are looking for any sort of support to be able to develop skills in your classroom, I think Shimanli is your support system there. So you can reach out to us on the ID. Chinky, if you could move to the last screen where
Yeah,
we
sure,
mentioned yeah. So you can, reach out to us, or if there is anything about research and reflection that you would want to discuss with Ms. Chinky, you can write to her as well. We are looking forward to more and more collaborative sessions with all of you, in case one of you would want to be a speaker of these sessions, because the idea of these sessions is more of interaction and collaboration. So let us keep in touch and let us keep learning from each other to upgrade ourselves and to be able to ace up with our learners. That is the whole idea of this session. Thank you so much, Ms. Chinky. I think this was really wonderful. Thank you for taking out so much of time, for putting in all of these tools together, for doing a lot of research and bringing in all the material and resources that you've brought in together for all of us. It was, a great help for me personally, and I'm sure looking forward to other educators also gaining such kind of support from this webinar. Thank you so much, everyone, for joining in, and have a great evening ahead. Thank you.
Thank you.